The $1,000,000 question: how do entrepreneurs transition from self-employed to owning a business that turns a profit? My name is Chris Waters, and this podcast has the $1,000,000 answer. Welcome to CEO Secrets. Well, we're live right now on Facebook. Hello to everybody in the Facebook group. Today's topic is going to be about direct mail and magazines, and the big question is that dead? Is that a bad lead source, a bad strategy to be implementing? We're going to be talking about that today. I have a very special guest on. Let me just hit record here and we'll be ready to go. So I have Michelle Tietz. Did I pronounce that right? Michelle Tietz?
Perfect. Yeah.
And you go by Mickey?
I do.
And so I am super excited to have you on, Mickey, because you have a very unique perspective. In your 20s, you told me you were an assistant to a top producing real estate agent in your respective market. And then you later got into the advertising world. And so you're a unique guest because you can kind of like marry the two, right? Because like you were in advertising, but you had a couple of years of experience in real estate. So you know what real estate agents go through. And probably the most amazing thing about having you on is that you were recently promoted to being the CEO of Green Media, Inc. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So for our audience today, like I guess the juice I hope to extract out of you, or the genius I really hope to extract out of you, is one, like how you went from in your 20s being an assistant to someone in real estate to now you're a CEO of an advertising agency. And then the other thing I want to talk about is like you guys have actually like a pretty amazing product to help generate really high quality leads, specifically listing side leads, which is a great benefit of something you do. So like, I want to talk about those two things today. Before we get too far in, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? And just, feel free, give us your 30-second bio, if you will.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I started my career in print advertising. And as you mentioned, I worked for a top producing Coldwell Banker agent for a while and absolutely fell in love with real estate. I ended up going back to my advertising and print career for a while, but I had a moment in time where I moved up to Montana and actually got my license and existed just selling real estate for 3 years up there and was on the board of realtors in the Bitterroot Valley and had the time of my life. I ended up going back into advertising and print again, and I have made my way up to the CEO of this advertising publishing company where our focus is real estate agents and how we can help them.
That's awesome. So let me ask you something. So let's start with how you go from being an agent to CEO. And like that transition, like I want to understand like the nuts and bolts of like the skills you had to learn to get into that kind of position. So can you maybe tell me about like the trajectory of things you had to learn to go from being a salesperson to being at the advertising agency and working your way up? Like, what were the things you had to develop?
Being very detail oriented from a production perspective, that was very helpful. And having, a good understanding of numbers was very helpful as well. So I started out assisting in finance and worked my way into operations, which basically a lot of the agents have that skill set because when you handle a transaction, you're dealing with numbers constantly. You're dealing with all the details that, particularly here in California, I think our agents would agree that there's so many details, but across the US, it's just becoming more prevalent. And from there, once you're involved in all the details, you have sales chops and you can handle the production and operation of your business. It's just an easy jump over into CEO role. So just gain some leadership skills along the way.
It's interesting what you're saying, because there was a study done of the Fortune 500 CEOs, and 2/3 of those CEOs came from sales roles.
Interesting.
So it seems like if you can, sales is something you can learn. So it seems like if you can learn how to be a good salesperson, and you can marry that with understanding the financial side of a business and like, managing your P&L and understanding like budgeting and forecasting, like that's a great, those are two great skill sets to set you up for success as a potential CEO.
Yeah, that's exactly what I found worked.
So like outside of from a skills perspective, in a CEO role, like you spend a lot of your time trying to get other people to move in a specific direction and like influence others to take action. What are some of the things like when you think about your like daily activities of like what you're doing as a CEO, like how do you set yourself up for success to try to like lead others to take action? Like what do your daily activities look like to the people that report to you?
So one of the things that I found most important as I transitioned into the CE role is to hire people smarter than yourself, right? So I have an amazing staff that works with me, and we do meet frequently to talk about where we're at. And I do it in a manner that is more of a family style. That's what works for me. So we sit down and we, have meals together. We have meetings where no one feels threatened, and we kind of just talk about what ideas they have to continue to elevate our company. And then we discuss what my vision is for the company and any research that I've done recently, because that's something that I do on a daily basis, is ensure that our metrics are performing. And if I need any assistance, I just lean on staff that is in place already or continue to search for the best staff out there.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So if I like summarize what you said, leverage finding people better than yourself that specialize in special roles. That sounds like the first thing, right?
Absolutely.
The second thing is like having key performance indicators for each person you're managing.
Yes.
To understand where they're performing. And then the third thing you said that I think is, simplistic but complex is the family environment, which comes down to like helping create a culture where people like to be in the workplace and like, want to come in and be productive.
Absolutely. I find it does help so much.
So have you read that book called Culture Code by chance?
I believe I've read Culture Code. It's been a while if I have.
So something I loved about that book is the author talked about how there's three ingredients to developing culture. And these three things have to be present in the workforce to like get people to be in a positive mental space. And I think, for salespeople specifically, and I'm preaching to the choir here, like for salespeople, I think we can all agree, like 80% of your success is defined by your mindset. And so your job as a leader, right, is to like, create that family environment where people can feel like they can be productive and work off each other. And so what the guy says in the book is the three ingredients are security, people feeling secure in their positions. Number two, vulnerability. So like they can be vulnerable around their coworkers and to the leaders that they report to. And number three, they need to feel like they can be bought into a shared purpose.
Love that.
So I told you this before we went live. I selfishly want to ask you a lot of questions about the advertising side because I'm a big advocate of direct mail and newspapers, which I know sounds crazy, but there's a formula that generates really high quality leads that convert like through the roof. And a lot of people know that like I've done, I'm a millennial. And so like when I got started 10 years ago, I was like a huge advocate of search engine optimization, Google AdWords, Facebook ads. But the challenge is the quality of those leads is very low. And so you have to work a lot of leads to, close a deal. And so I found like more traditional medias, if you can get the formula right, the conversion cycle is much shorter. So when someone calls you, like they're typically ready to go and you don't have to work as many leads to close a deal. And so you're a lot more, not only efficient, but also effective, which is awesome. So, so your company has a publication called the Neighborhood Connection.
Correct. Yes.
And so tell me a little bit about neighborhood connection and kind of the, I guess the big value proposition to real estate brokerages and teams that are trying to build listing inventory. What's the big, competitive advantage of going with neighborhood connection versus like some of these others like Discover Publication or, Homes by Design does a little thing for realtors. What's the big, competitive advantage for you guys?
So there are a few things that sets our magazine apart, and what we love to tell our agents is we will reserve an exclusive farm area for you. So we won't allow another agent in your farm area. That does make you the neighborhood expert, and we will publish the 32-page magazine. It's a digest-sized magazine. We publish that for you, and you have complete creative control. It's not a wrap around, anything. It is your own 32-page magazine. With that being said, we do feel there's power in print. As you mentioned, the leads that are generated are quality from a print publication. There's so much you can do in 32 pages. It is an amazing listing tool, but you can also garner buyers from it as well. People will hang on to this magazine and they'll share it with others. But we do recognize the value of digital, but it took us quite a while to find the perfect magic sauce to engage digital with our print publication. And we've created what we call TNC Wired that is complementary, and it's a digital wrap around your print publication that leads people to your magazine and to your website. So, but our print is our strong product. That is what we do.
Okay. So do you, first off, so it's 32 pages. You guys create all the content. And then as an agent, I'm able to upload additional content if I want?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have an onboarding process that we've completely simplified. We start our agents with a customized template that they can walk through. It's very simple. We have in-house staff that will assist them as needed so that it doesn't fall on them. We have testimonials that share with our agents that it is not too daunting of a task in the beginning. And we will put together all of the content for them. We also have in-house designers. We don't outsource anything we do, and we will take your ideas and we'll turn them into a magazine. So we'll start with our template. You can make any changes that you want. We'll go back and forth as long as it takes till you have your showcase magazine.
And then you can get vendors on board to basically offset the cost of it.
Yeah, that is part of the genius of it. If you as an agent have a preferred lender or a preferred escrow company or somebody that you know that would love to get exposure in your magazine or just wants to support you as a business in return for your business to them, we will create an ad for them and we will place it in, and we'll even bill your advertiser for you to offset the cost of your magazine to make this more cost effective.
That's pretty amazing that you guys will handle the billing, because that's kind of a pain.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's say I sign up for Neighborhood Connection. Are y'all targeting a zip code? Are you targeting a community? How do you target? Like, is the messaging of the magazine focused on a community or a zip code? Like, how's that work?
Yeah, so it is meant to go to a targeted neighborhood. We will drill down through mapping software to carrier routes, but you can also piece out the carrier routes. So it's very granular. The cost of postage does increase once you move away a little bit from saturation, but we work through all that to get the desired effect. And then we will also add a sphere list on top of your neighborhood. So you maybe want to do a neighborhood of 2,000 homes, you have a sphere list of 500, and perhaps you want to also add outside owners. We'll pull that list for you as well. So we can put those three lists together that still concentrate on a specific area in a neighborhood or an entire neighborhood that you want to do.
Got it. So let me ask you just some like key numbers here. So like if I wanted to pick a neighborhood of 1,000 houses to keep numbers easy, number one, what's my cost? Number two, like how long does it take before people start calling? And then like what kind of ROI are most people seeing after, you've been sending it out? And then also, how often are you sending the magazine out?
All right. So our publication is monthly. Our minimum is 1,500. So we would talk you into adding a sphere list and some outside owners on your 1,000 farm area.
Got it. Okay.
We would, So on a minimum, our price range is $1.39 a magazine plus postage for a monthly magazine. We could increase your farm area up to 5,000. Your cost per magazine drops dramatically to 69 cents. So it's 69 cents a magazine for the entire 32 pages, design included, etc., plus postage. If you were doing saturation, you're looking at around 18 cents per magazine. So truly cost effective at 88 cents a magazine for 5,000 homes.
Okay, so 5,000 houses times 88 cents. That includes postage and printing. That's $4,400. How long does it take before you start getting leads, and then how many deals will actually close?
Okay, so it does vary. We have to be honest about that. We had a gentleman in the Scottsdale area that started with us 3 months ago. He got a call on the digital wrap that we do before his magazine published, because that starts 5 days out before magazines hit mailbox, and he ended up with a listing. So that's one end of the spectrum. He got a listing prior to his magazine hitting. We have agents that will get a listing each month from their magazine. And I want to be honest, we've had the opposite too. We've had an agent that was very close to wondering if they had done the right thing, and they hit the 6-month mark. And that was a downtown San Diego agent. And he ended up on month 6 getting a $3 million listing. So paid for his yearly campaign and got the branding message out there the entire 6 months, and obviously continued with us for quite a long time.
So I want to share something with you. So I did direct mail, and I sent out postcards, right? And I sent out 10,000 postcards 8 weeks in a row. And then I started sending them out every other week, and then every once a month, and did that over 6 months. And I spent it's a crazy amount of money, like $250,000 or something in the first 6 months. And I only took 6 listings, with the average listing bringing in a $10,000 commission check. So that was $60,000.
Yeah.
So I lost like $190,000, and I quit. And what I realized was, number one, at that point, I didn't have enough money in the bank to wait long enough to see the true results. And so I started reaching out to people that had a lot of success with direct mail. And what they told me is direct mail magazines, it's a brand equity building campaign. It's not a direct response type deal. So direct response is when you buy leads on Facebook or Google and you suck out people's information. And so it's a brand equity thing. If you think about Louis Vuitton or these big brands people know of, it's a brand equity thing, and that takes a long time to build. So to optimize, or how long, I guess the question, so I found out with direct mail, it takes a year. With Neighborhood Connection, when do you really see the real juice of sending this out? Is it at the 6 month mark, or is it the year mark, 2 year mark?
It's at the 4 to 6 month mark. That's when we're really seeing that juice that you described. That's when we're getting the best feedback from our new agents, right in between the 4 to 6 month mark. We have helped from a cost perspective, because that's always a challenge for an agent. We want to be able to provide a service for not only somebody like yourself that is a seasoned agent that has a brokerage firm. We can do a team magazine, and that can offset the cost as well. If you have 10 people on your team and they're each contributing, you can send 30,000 magazines out, and it's uber cost effective. Mm-hmm. But we also wanted to reach an agent that maybe is just now starting to become, the agent of record in a certain area, and they want to be a branded expert in that area. So we wrapped a postcard into it. So you don't necessarily have to do a magazine every month. You can do a magazine quarterly, and we'll send out 6x11 glossy postcards on your off months to keep your branding up, but to keep your costs down. And the digital goes the entire 12 months. So we suggest a 12-month contract. 4 to 6 months is when you start to see the most results.
So that's genius. So basically you do a quarterly magazine that keeps your costs down.
Yep.
And then you do the direct mail piece on the off months. What's the cost difference between the magazine and the direct mail piece?
We put it together as a blended product to help with budgeting, but we can break it out as well. So postcards, as you know, aren't cheap, but we have magic sauce that makes our magazine actually pretty cost effective.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the postcards can go down, as low as 18 cents. We can get our magazine that low depending on volume. So there's a little bit of a matrix in answering that question, but it does definitely work. What would on the basic 1,500 package that we discussed in the very beginning, where I mentioned it was $1.39 a magazine for 1,500. When you blend it with postcard, it brings that monthly cost down to 79 cents for 1,500. So there's a dramatic difference.
So what about the results though? Like if you're trying to be cheap about it, do your results crash compared to sending out the magazine every month?
They don't, and I know that's shooting us in the foot a little bit. I mean, branding is branding, and you want to get out there. We have agents that won't strike from a magazine because they're getting such great results, so they feel it's a gamble. But we began the blended pricing this year, and we're hearing great feedback from our agents that it's working. We have the every other month. That seems to be a favorite, where it's a magazine 6 times a year and a postcard 6 times a year. We're seeing great results from that.
And then regarding results, you said best case, like you get a listing month 1, like let's say like month 4 to 6. This is probably a hard question for you to answer. Like how many listings could you expect if you're sending out 5,000, either postcards or magazines? Like how many listings could you expect to get, like month 6, for example? Like, do y'all have any data on that? I know that fluctuates market by market.
It does. And we're in different markets, and we're continuing to branch out. So it does differ, as markets change. The difference is, it's palatable from market to market. But we have agents that get 2 listings at 6 months, which is fantastic. We've heard of 3 before in 1 month. We have agents that do smaller quantities that are getting a listing a month. And, not to overplay it, but we've had people that have had gap months as well. So maybe they got a listing on month 2 and month 3 and 4 weren't fruitful, but branding continued to occur. And by month 5, they had another 2 listings.
So I really appreciate your conservative,
very honest, conservative answers.
Yes,
I just don't want to overpromise.
Yeah, no,
we continue to have more testimonials on our website. We have some really high-powered agents that have some amazing testimonials to us, and I can allow them to do the overpromising.
So you do a great job on the expectations part. So one thing that I learned in direct mail from after I failed at it miserably was the guy told me that was kind of telling me everything I did wrong. He said that you need to pay attention to the turnover rate in the area you're targeting. So what's your advice around, like, when you're trying to pick a neighborhood, like what are the things you should be mindful of when you're trying to target a neighborhood?
So turnover rate's a really good one. And we do delve into turnover rate with our agents if that's something that's top of mind for them. And we'll pull that data with them and we'll take a look at that. And we have stayed away from certain areas because of that. We do look at, owner ratio. We look at rental ratio. We do a lot of things. But there's things we can do, as I mentioned earlier, where we can kind of try to capture those that are, wanting to turn over, or those owners that are potentially looking out. We just delve into all of it. In Arizona, we're finding certain areas where there's snowbird. We're finding ways to get a hold of the snowbirds when they're not in town, because we did research that showed that they want to sell sometimes without coming back into Arizona. So that was a path that we took with some of our agents, was locating them. High turnover areas they're valuable, and we do look for those, but so is dominating a neighborhood. Like if you live in a neighborhood and it's a gated community, or it's a, tight community, and there's a few other competitive agents, we can get it so that you are the go-to agent in that area. And we do it through your magazine having content that is valuable, like puzzles. We'll put a puzzle in your magazine and somebody will want to hang on to that magazine. So when they, are sitting at the doctor's office or they're waiting to pick up their kids, they have your magazine in their hand and they're doing it. So we've spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, and we have a lot of experience with why would people hang on to your magazine? What type of content do you need to put in it? Hyper local events to make you the expert. So this isn't just a magazine or just a postcard. This is a community involved magazine that makes you become the expert in your area.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say? Okay, so one thing that's I guess I have a question on. So like if you are going after a very high price point neighborhood, obviously the commission, you don't have to get as many listings, and the commission will, make up for the money. But like, let's say you're going after like the typical like $300,000, $400,000 neighborhood, and it's like a master plan community, for example. And, your average commission is, call it 10 grand. That means, you would want, ideally, like to get 10,000 in commission, you spend $1,000 in ad spend. So like for me personally, like if I spend $5,000 in advertising, like I want to bring in 5 listings. So is that an unrealistic expectation to get 5 listings on a $5,000 ad spend?
No,
in a neighborhood that's like a lower price point and has higher turnover?
Yeah, I think we could do that. We would probably go with a blended package because the price point, let's say your neighborhood is 2,500, our price point is around 66, and you would want to saturate mail a high turnover area anyway to make sure that you're getting all of the listings in that area and potential buyers if there's a rental situation. So with postage and on a monthly basis at that buy, we're easily right around 1,000. And even a 1,500 buy wouldn't, we always say the more you can cover, the better. It just makes more sense so that you can get that consistent listing a month on that spend, but we're absolutely right there.
Okay. So it sounds like, well, let me ask one thing about conversion rates. I'm sorry, not conversion rates, turnover rate. What are the ranges of turnover rates in a neighborhood? So like, for example, at a high price point, maybe you're looking for like 3 to 4% turnover. Like maybe a lower price point, like you need to have like, an 8% turn. Like what are the metrics you should be paying attention to?
So what we have noticed is that each agent has like their own threshold for what they're looking for in a turnover neighborhood. We have been very fruitful in the data, and we've found some, depends on the area and the part of the US that we're looking at, as high as 10% in what I would consider an average priced home area. 10 to 12% has been on the high side. The 3 to 4 that you've mentioned, that's definitely on the low side when we're looking for a turnover neighborhood. I would say if we can hit that 5% turnover rate on a higher priced market, we're doing great, and our agents are very successful.
Okay, so 5% would be optimal for high end, and then 10 to 12 would be super optimal.
Ideal, just crazy ideal.
And that's for a lower price point.
It's good, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so like basically, like don't turn it on unless you're at 8% conversion. 8% turnover in lower price point neighborhoods. Is that right?
I would say that's a fair statement.
Okay. Okay, cool. And then obviously you get your vendors, they could potentially zero base the cost of it for you.
Yeah.
Got it. And okay, cool. So you happen to have, I know I didn't ask you this in advance, but do you have like a hard copy available? Like you could like show on the camera?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I'd love to see what it looks like. By the way, while Mickey's getting that, for those of you guys that are listening to this podcast on YouTube or on iTunes or somewhere online, we have a private Facebook group made up of high-powered CEOs across the country, and I broadcast these live as I do them in our private Facebook group. So reach out to me if you guys want to get an invitation. It's a closed group, so I've got to accept you, and I need to know who you are. We try to really connect with everybody within that group and get to know everybody, and we're passing referrals and business and all kinds of good stuff in that group. So anyways, Mickey, and I'm for those of you guys listening to this on iTunes, I'm sorry you can't see this. You'll need to chime into our private Facebook group to see the video replay of this, or go on YouTube. Show me what it looks like. Okay. So
this is our 32-page magazine. I'd also like to mention, I know we talk about real estate statistics because they're very, very important, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention, print statistics as well. And 750% is the data for the higher response rate for print versus email. So if you're a real estate agent and you're just emailing your clients thinking that that might be all you need to do, you're really missing the boat on direct mail. You'll receive a 750% higher response from your efforts with a print piece. Also, 93% of people ages 25 to 34 will respond to direct mail. So that puts your millennial age group into surprisingly people that really do like to get print pieces in the mail and they respond. There's not a lot of print right now. So when your magazine or your postcard or any of your other print efforts go out there, they kind of stand out in the mailbox right now, and it's kind of cool. I do know too that 2/3 of all of the U.S. Research, searches on Google are related from an outside source. So print definitely drives people to your website. Real estate spotlight. I love that page too.
Hey, for you guys that are, we have quite a few people watching this live right now, Mickey. And so for those of you guys watching this live on Facebook, in our private Facebook group, please comment in the thread below if you have any questions.
Yes.
Anything like insightful you think I should be asking, I'll chime in and ask her. So just a recap of what we talked about. So print is sticky. People will, have this on their coffee table for a long time. The content, you guys create 10 pages, and then you've also got branded content the agent puts in there. It's in full color. It's 32 pages. It's specific to like a master plan community, for example. And you showed off some pages in the magazine of some of the vendors that can actually pay for it. So you could technically not have to even pay a single dollar for this. You get your vendors to cover the cost. And then the conversion rates are basically like, it sounds like, if I hear you right, if you're in a lower price point neighborhood, 300,000-400,000, and you're sending out to 5,000 houses, it sounds like you could take roughly, 3-4 listings a month, maybe somewhere around there.
Possible, absolutely.
And then it's going to be obviously less if it's a higher price point area, but there's really no cost for you to do it if you get a vendor on board. And then
cute advertisement.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. And then in terms of like picking neighborhoods, you want to make sure if it's a lower price point area, like $200 to $400,000 price range, you want to make sure there's 8% turnover rate. And then if it's 8% minimum, ideally higher turnover rate. And then if it's a expensive neighborhood, like $1 million plus, then you can go down to like 4%. Turnover. So these are the minimum thresholds you should be looking for turnover. What about competition? Like, what if there's other people that what if there's another realtor or team that has like a sizable piece of market share? Like should you stay away from that neighborhood? Like, what's the threshold when you should be like, okay, this agent or competitor is like dominating this neighborhood, I should stay out? Like, what's your opinion on that?
So, I actually have real life experience on this. We had an agent in San Diego who was a fledgling agent, just starting out. Amazing gentleman. And he had a huge competitive seasoned agent in an area that he wanted to become the expert in. So he took on farming that area with our product. And again, doing everything else that you as a real estate agent would do. He did marketing, he did his door knocking, he did, coaching successfully with a great coach, etc. So anyway, it ended up that he actually did begin to dominate that area and become the expert. He added a second neighborhood too, based off the success of his first. He also became a neighborhood expert in that area. And this is over a period of roughly, 6 months to a year the first time. And now he's adding a third area. So he is up to 7,500 homes that he's actively farming, and just more successful than he's ever been.
And so tell me what's led him to success. Like how did everything work out so good for him? Like, why do you think he was an optimal customer? What was the environment that he operated in?
Yeah, he didn't just mail a magazine, he worked his magazine. That's what we like to say. So he put his magazine in coffee shops, and he was out in his community, and his magazine was community driven. So it wasn't like a look at me magazine, it was more of like a share magazine. It was something beneficial for the community that he was trying to farm, and it made them know who he was and recognize him, and he became the go-to person when they were interested in buying or selling. Like, it actually was the perfect scenario, hard worker, out in his community and utilizing a branded direct mail piece to become recognizable in the area.
Okay, so he put the magazines in local businesses. He was doing regular open houses, but was the turnover rate ideal? Was that another factor?
We didn't look at the turnover rate. So in his area, that didn't come into play. We have some agents that aren't as interested in the metric, like they're interested in the neighborhood. So they want to become an expert in a specific neighborhood, and they'll go ahead and just farm that area.
Okay, so for the people out there that are building a real estate business and they're building a team where they have agents underneath them doing all the work, do you have anybody that's doing that? Like where, maybe there's a rainmaker that gets positioned like as the celebrity, and then that agent or team owner is sending another agent on the appointment? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of times that happens. This is an agent that's been with us for probably since the very beginning, and that's exactly what happens. He is downtown San Diego, and he has a team, and he has a spread in his magazine that is dedicated to his team. He puts in all of his brokers' listings in here to share with the neighborhood that he farms. And when he gets a call, he rotates those just like you would, normally when you have a team, whether it's contact that comes in through the web or through the phone call, they rotate through his agents.
Is that Daniel Beer by chance?
It's not Daniel. Who we do know. This is Chad Danaker.
Okay.
I don't know if you know him, but very active agent with a team.
Yeah. Yeah, I love San Diego. The weather out there is amazing. Coronado is amazing. The Del Hotel.
Yes.
So awesome. So I have a question on here. Somebody asked, is there an ideal age range that print should be delivered to? What's your feedback on that? Like, who is most likely to engage with print and become a customer?
It's across the board. I would think that there is not necessarily an ideal range, because I think that data shows that older people do love their print. They're kind of new, even though it's been 20, 30 years, but they're still a little bit resistant sometimes to digital or to smartphones. So I think we can just knock that out right there. Yeah. They're definitely open to print. But just that stat that I mentioned earlier that might have elicited that question, it is, I think, somewhat surprising to some that people age 25 to 34, 93% are reading direct mail. So I think that just closes the gap right there that everybody does read it.
Well, it's like you don't get very much mail anymore. So when you do, it's kind of like, oh, it's cool.
It's either an Amazon box or a magazine, right?
Yeah, right. Okay, cool. So ingredients to success, you got your conversion rates. If you do have competition, just know you're going to have to do more legwork. Your team needs to do open houses, get involved with local businesses, things like that. And let's see what else. So we talked about turnover. We talked about getting your vendors involved. We talked about the magazine. Let's dial into the digital marketing component. So what are y'all doing specifically from a digital marketing perspective to get the magazine out there?
Gotcha. So I have cheat sheets for this too. We do a social match. So we create social media ads for you, or you can supply them. We have specs, but we'll create them in-house. We do that with Facebook and Instagram, and that's our social match. It promotes your call to action. Perhaps you're looking for listings. We can do, what's your home worth, or whatever call to action you find most valuable for you at this moment in time. We'll generate that ad for you. We do Google ads. We also do retargeting ads, really important. So if they have been to your website, we have a pixel on your website and we capture that data and we retarget people that have been to your website. one new really fun thing that we are in the process of launching and introducing is we can capture addresses of people that visit your website. So that's been really fun for us right now. I know there's not a lot of people out there doing it, so it's kind of fun to see it. We make sure that it meets quite a few metrics before we announce the address to you. So maybe more people have come to your website than what we're sharing with you. But once we give you an address of somebody that's come to your website, we're very certain that it's accurate. And we're having fun with that because we're finding that people are coming to your website from our magazine that you're maybe not able to quantify because they didn't pick up the phone and say, I saw your magazine, but we're driving them to your website, and you can go and you can door knock. If there are people coming to your website that haven't received your magazine, you can add them to your mailing list and get them a magazine in hand next month. So that's kind of our most exciting thing. Not that digital ads aren't exciting. Yeah. We have a dashboard that you can log into. It will show you the impressions, any clicks that you have, the normal stuff, cool. The retargeting, etc.
So is this like you, so are you, do we use our own website, or do you guys build a website for us? That's like
you use your own. Yeah. Okay. It increases your SEO as well. Yep. So that more people find you.
Okay, cool. That's good to hear, because I have one more. I don't need one more website, you know?
No, you don't. We need some of our agents to consolidate what they have going on, honestly.
Yeah. So on the digital side, like when you guys pick a neighborhood, are y'all geofencing the neighborhood so that the Facebook ads and Instagram ads, they only pop up in that neighborhood, or is it across?
So we haven't geofenced by definition. Part of what I do on a daily basis is I am always looking at how I can improve our offerings. So that is definitely on the table down the road. But what we are do is we are keyword targeting neighborhoods. We will keyword target community names, zip code areas, etc., so that we have, and the best thing about ours is we have a mailing list. So when we upload the mailing list, we're able to social match people on your mailing list to the social ads. So we can serve your ads to people on your mailing list. And we have a really high match rate. That's why we built our digital to support the direct mail piece. We're going to hammer the people that you're mailing about.
Okay. So I imagine you guys are pulling the IP address of the physical house address. Like you match the IP address with the house address, and then you serve the ads.
Yeah, okay. to the iPads, to the smartphones, matching that digital address. You know, it sounds like you're familiar with what goes on in the background. Yep. It's a lot. And honestly, we have programmers, remember, hire people smarter than you. So we did that.
Yeah. Yeah. I should probably add for people listening to this, you just got moved to the CEO position, right? Like how long ago?
Officially, it was in November of last year. Okay. So, but really full-blown acting has been the last 4 months.
Yeah. So you've taken on a lot in the last 4 months. So yeah.
Been great.
Cool. Okay. So awesome. So what about like setup fees? Do you guys have like a setup fee to get going?
We do. We have a setup fee. We always have a special going to try to reduce it. And we have referral reduction as well. We just did a happy hour at an event in Anaheim with a coach there. And we, people that were in attendance got our full undivided attention, and we were able to give a discount code. So ask me for a discount code for Chris Waters, and we have one.
Cool. Okay. And so if I get a vendor to pay for the magazine, do you guys charge a percentage of that revenue, or like, how do y'all like if I have a lender put in 1,000, title company put in 1,000, roofing company put in 1,000, and you guys are collecting money from all these people, like, do y'all charge a service fee for doing that for me?
No, absolutely not.
That's pretty amazing. That's really cool. And what in
that scenario, if you only had a $2,500 bill, I could probably cut you a check for $500. I don't know. Like we would, that'd be kind of fun.
Well, Mickey, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I've probably, hammered you with a lot of sales questions. Normally that would go to your salesperson. But,
absolutely. And we have those here.
I'm really excited. Just for people that are listening to this podcast, I do a ton of radio, TV, and billboard. And radio and TV and billboard is great. It was a brand equity thing. Like it took a long time to like optimize conversion rates and like dial in our client acquisition costs. So we got a good ROI, but it took a really long time. And one thing that I realized is even with radio, TV, and billboard, it's really hard to get, a footprint in a very specific neighborhood. And the one cool thing about these, the neighborhoods is like, once you, get a footprint in there, your market penetration or market share grows every single year, and it just compounds and gets better and better the longer you do it. And so like something else I found out with like radio, TV, and billboard is like that typically attracted like not always lower priced listings, but like it was just kind of random, like we'd get listings all over the place, like all over the greater metro area, like in the suburbs, but I could never penetrate like the inner city where there were higher price points. And so I'm and some of these price points, you've also got a lot of competition. So I'm excited to test Neighborhood Connection in like a master plan community where I know there's high turnover, and I know there's some competition there, but I think because of all the other stuff we do and the fact we'll do open houses and all that stuff in there, it can really help us crush it. So I'm gonna give you guys a try on our team in Austin. And I was telling you earlier before the podcast, I tested advertorials using the newspaper, which seems like super old school, but it brought in really high price point listings. Doing advertorials, I was really shocked, and that's something else really cool about newspapers is like they're really struggling, and so like you can make a pretty sweet deal. Again, it goes out, the newspaper goes out to a lot of people, so you'll never dominate like one specific neighborhood, which is, I think, the big value proposition of what you guys are doing is you can really take over a neighborhood and really build a consistent pipeline of listings. And then for people listening to this that don't know this, like another cool benefit of like dominating a neighborhood is you become a matchmaker for a deal, like for your listings, because you're gonna know about every buyer interested in that neighborhood, because you're gonna have a lot of people calling on your signs, and they're gonna see the open houses, and so you get to double end on the commission side a lot of deals, and so it's a pretty sweet opportunity once you actually double end, or once you actually start getting that brand equity built in a neighborhood. So anyways, Mickey, thanks so much for being on. I think let's see. I have, one last question. Okay. Ryan Bieber said, what company is she with? And the company's called Green Media Inc. And the publication is called The Neighborhood Connection, right?
Yep.
And where should people go to get more information or to contact you guys about working with you?
So our website, theneighborhoodconnection.com, just like it sounds, all spelled out, theneighborhoodconnection.com, and you'll find a ton of information about everything that we offer, as well as ways to look to see if your farm is available and to look at pricing, etc.
Cool. Well, Mickey, thanks so much for being on. You've covered a ton of stuff. I think it's pretty apparent that magazines and print is not dead, and there's a way to still leverage it. And actually, there's some competitive advantages right now of actually doing it because there's so little competition. It generates higher quality leads. It just takes it takes a little bit longer for it to work. And then, something I love is you and like every CEO I've interviewed, like from the perspective of like, how they got into that role so they could like stop being on the grind of, being a salesperson. That was, the key thing I hear over and over, and the genius you shared was like, to get into that role, you got to start learning to leverage yourself and find other people that are better than you at roles. And then, you also need to like learn the financial side of the business, and like, you got to start off, acting like a business owner and less like a salesperson. And so those are the skills you need to learn. And then the third thing you talked about was culture, the importance of creating an environment where people want to be there. So you get people to like, maximize their productivity. So
100%.
yeah, you're echoing the same thing like everybody says on the CEO. So I hope people are hearing this, and they realize like these are the things you gotta start being mindful of to make that transition. So, guys, for those of you guys listening on iTunes or YouTube, be sure to check out our book, The $1 Million Real Estate Team. Check out our book. We're actually giving this away for free. All you have to do is cover shipping and handling, and you guys can get this online. It's a 200-page book about us building our real estate team in Austin, Texas, and we started testing this stuff in other markets, and these teams grew gangbusters, like 300 to 400%. So, anyways, thanks everybody for tuning in, and Mickey, thank you so much for your time. And if you guys have any questions in the future about how to make that transition from being a salesperson to CEO, please submit your questions to us, and we'll be sure to ask future CEOs like how they got into that position of working on the business versus being in it on the daily. So thanks again, Mickey. Hope everybody has an awesome day.